of course, there needs to be taxes. Like, the government does have to get things done to help people. But the question is, are we being taxed too much? Are we being taxed too many times? And is the money that they're collecting being used efficiently? Because what if they are wasting money on programs that are hurting people? That means they're taking money from people to put into programs that are then hurting people even more and costing people more money. And these are the questions we're going to run through this visual representation of how many times the government has their hand in your pocket, right? This right here, this stack is your income, right? Whether you are an employee or you're a business owner, you have all this money that you have worked for. But before you even get to see the money, before you even get the check, the government's already taken out their piece, right? For whatever it is they say that they need it for. Again, we have to do our share. So they got to take what they need to take. But now, is that the last time they take it out? Of course not. We know this. Because whether you're buying a home or having rent, you need transportation like a car, and the gas in the car, and any other utilities you might have, like electricity, phone bills, and food, right? We need food, a whole lot of money, and even things, labor costs, we can call them, like if you need to get your hair cut, or you need a plumber or a roofer or whatever. All of these things, all of our expenses, the things that we need to be able to live, all get taxed again. Meaning we're paying tax with the money that has already been taxed. They already took out the portion, but they're coming back for more. So like when you think of a house, or let's even say you're renting, you're still paying property taxes, even though you don't own the place, because the person who does own the place pays property tax. And the only way he can be a landlord and have a place for you to live is if he makes a profit. So you're paying for that as well. But you're not just paying the property tax. You're paying the taxes on the materials that they needed for the house, right? The wood, the shingles, the windows. And they're also paying tax on that labor, because people had to build it, and there's income tax. And these businesses have to spend all this money to be able to just have a place for you to live. And then you gotta figure, even after all that, there's still a portion of what you're spending on the home on regulation, right? Because you can't just build a house. You need to go through the government. You need to get permits and get permission to build these homes, and make sure that they look through the process. And these permits are gonna, slow down the process and, cost the people money. And you have to, if you're building homes, or let's say building cars, you need people that need to learn that part of the industry. They need to learn how to deal with the government, which takes manpower. So, your electric bills might be a little bit more expensive, because look at your electric bill, you're getting taxed on that as well. All the regulations that they have on foods, on top of the sales taxes. We got to remember that too, right? Because the sales tax is a factor each time it trades hands. Because with cars, you have the manufacturing and the shipment that gets taxed, as well as the labor like everybody else. Utilities as well with the labor, but they also have transportation costs, and they also have real estate costs. And it goes down, because when you're buying food, that also needed to be, they had to use water, so they had to pay for utilities. They had to transport the food, which costs gas money, which is also being taxed. It's down to the labor, because every single one of these things obviously need a place. They need real estate. They also need utilities and transportation, but they also need labor. And if each one of those categories is being charged a tax, anytime they enter, intertwined with any of the other aspects, whether it's the business that you shop at, the home that you live in, the company service that you hired. They're getting taxed each time they interact with one of these other categories, which means it's stacking. It's much more tax than we're thinking, because it's every line that builds up the cost of the wood, the windows, the shingles, the whatever you need for the home, the pipes. They're all getting hit with all these charges, so the house grows in expenses. So where you're spending this much on a home, you're really getting a home that's a value of this because of all the extra costs that really got you nothing. It's like a bag of chips with air in it. That extra air did not create any value for you, but it did take up space. But it gets worse, because there's other aspects besides the sales taxes and the labor taxes, is just the loss of competition, because that costs money too. Competition is what keeps prices low. If you have a car company that sells a better car for cheaper, the other companies have to keep up with it, so they have to drop the price too, and they have to go back and forth. But now, if it's more expensive to start a business, because all those upfront fees that you have to give to the government first, then there's less businesses that are going to be created, because they don't have that upfront capital. But also, they don't have the experience. They don't know how to deal with the government, so they don't even try. And now you have other companies that are going to fail now, because they almost made it. They only needed just a bit more to break even and keep their head above water, but because they had to spend that extra amount on taxes and regulations and permits and all that, they failed, which makes it easier for the other companies, because they have less competition. They're able to higher their price. There's a decrease in supply, the demand stays the same, price goes up because there's less competition. So meaning, if the price is going up, you are getting less for your money, because there's less companies around, because they're taking tax money to help you, to make things cheaper. But in reality, they're just collecting all this money while also making things more expensive and restricting your freedoms, because now you have less options of things that you can buy, because you can only buy what they tell you can buy, because they can make the laws on that. So at the end of the day, you think you're getting this much value, you're only getting this much value, and they're not done, because then you want to go to the beach, so you got to pay the parking there, and on the way there you got pulled over by the cops because you were speeding, or you had tinted windows. So they take another piece. And then while you're there, you stay too long, they take a ticket. You know, because they're not done. And there's tow truck costs and, you know, red lights, cameras, and all the millions of things, penalties, to take more of your money that they've already been taking. I get the punishment thing, that makes sense. But what's happening with this money? Well, maybe they didn't take too much. Let's say they give you some income tax back, right? You know, they're helping you out. They give you a stimulus check. Whoo, you just got extra money, your money that you gave them before. And even though you gave them 3, they gave you only 2 back, because it costs money for it to go back and forth. So losing more money in between. But let's go ahead and play with the money and see what value you're getting out of this. Because every department that the government has the same exact expenses you have. They have real estate, because you need buildings for these people to work in. They need to have their equipment transferred back and forth. They have to pay for electricity and heat and air conditioning. Whoo, buddy, and those big buildings that they have. Nice big buildings. Food, I guess, supplies. We'll say for this is like papers, you know, those envelopes and stamps that you get in the mail of them reminding you of dumb shit, they have to pay for that with your money and then their labor costs. Same thing. They're doing all of this, and the vehicles that are used and the gas that is used and the supplies that are used and all these sales that are going back and forth, they're being taxed. Meaning they're not even getting the value of the things that they're spending on with your money. And again, they have to make some sort of profit to keep it going. So there's extra money there that they're just pulling and pulling and pulling, because they need to have this big enough building that, because it has so many employees, now has custodians and maintenance and, you know, HR and accountants. And now we're talking about accountants, because to get this income tax, to not get in trouble where they can take even more money from you as a penalty, you have to hire an accountant or learn how to do your own taxes. But a lot of people are going to hire their own accountant, hire somebody to do it, which is costing them more of their money. Yes, it's going to the business, and they're probably fucking paying taxes on the money that they're making from doing the government's job of figuring out how much you need to pay in taxes, but you're paying your money on that. And they're paying manpower to that. All those businesses that you're shopping at also have to have accountants, which are going to take a portion of their, you know, their profit, and because it's going to increase their expenses, because they now have to worry about these rules because they don't want to get in trouble, because businesses also get shut down because they're not doing their taxes properly, which is, again, decreasing the competition, increasing the prices. And it's just, this just keeps stacking over and over and over. And this is why I felt like I needed to make this video, because it was like non-stop. You could just keep finding places for them to charge you taxes. To do what with it? Yeah, we need a military, right? We do want to make sure that other countries don't destroy us, right? Every nation in the past has dealt with that, so we don't want to deal with that again. So you want to have a good military. You want to help, you know, the underprivileged that aren't able to do it themselves. You need some roads, you know, all these millions of things. You know, we need police force, you know, not unpopular belief nowadays, but you know, you do want to make sure people don't break into your house and steal your money, right? So we need these things, but how much are they paying for these? Because if they get to decide who gets to spend the money, and they're the ones writing their own salaries, we're furthermore getting less for what we pay for. And it's all across the board, because they're hiring their friends' companies, and what are they going to do? They're spending your money. You worked for the money. So when they go to hire their friend to do the road, or hire their friend to, you know, some sort of investment that they're saying is going to help the country in some sort of way, they're not going to pick the best company that's going to improve people's lives. They're going to pick the people that they know, so that they can go, here you go. Now you're going to make more money, because we're not going to charge you. We're not going to pay you what it costs to do it. We're going to pay you extra because you're my boy, because we're going to hook you up. Your money they're doing that with. And what are they getting in return? They're getting a piece of that. Of course they are. They're signing these contracts. They say, hey, we'll give you this contract to build this thing. They give them a bit of a kickback to help with their campaign, and they can continue to do the same thing over and over and over, so that you have less of this and they have as much as this. That's the issue. And what would happen if some of these dumb rules got taken away? If there wasn't so much regulations on mom and pop shops just trying to make a living, right? Where, yeah, there's less tax money available, but there's more money in your pocket because you're spending less on your stuff, because they didn't take the money out of your pocket in the first place. So you held on to it. So you had the money to be able to invest it and buy things that you need, stimulate the economy. So you have the money in your pocket. You decide that it goes to this business which is now able to make things cheaper for you, which is going to also make it cheaper for the other, factors in the industry. Because if the real estate's doing better, the utilities are going to do better, and if the utilities are doing better, the vehicles are going to be cheaper, and the vehicles are cheaper, food's going to be easier to send, labor, all of these things, they work in hand in hand. As things accelerate, they boost each other. Meaning you're spending less, you're keeping more of your money, your investments are paying you off better, because that company that you put money into, that car company that you invested part of your savings into, is now increasing because they're selling more cars because they're cheaper. And there's, and it's just nonstop, because now if there's less taxes being collected, you don't need as many IRS employees. So you're getting money from them not having so many HR workers and accountants and custodians. You don't need as much of an electric bill because less people are working there. If you're cutting back on, all this red tape that they put on, all these jobs that they have on preventing people from building buildings and homes and stores, if you cut all those jobs, you're keeping your money you never gave to them, right? Because it's on tax, like that tax money that you kept from your check and all those extra, expenses along the way. All these government departments have less employees, so it's less expenses. So it's less of your tax money. And there's less people getting in the way of the things that need to get done, so people can have places to live, food to eat, and all the other essentials. This also means people have more to give, more to help the people around them. Because who knows more about what's needed in their neighborhood than the people who live in that neighborhood? So the money that they're saying that, hey, you give us the money and we'll give it to the poor people, you can just give it to the poor people. And you don't have to pay that transaction fee, right? Because it costs money for the accountants to audit people, and for them to send out all this paperwork and all these, the place you work now has to send you all this extra paperwork and hire this entire department to deal with stuff for the government so that they could cost you more to help people. Because you want to be able to help them. You can do that with your money. So that means food's cheaper, healthcare's cheaper. Instead of giving it to the government, having them figure it out, because they're the ones deciding what the prices are in that case. So of course they're gonna, because if they have an infinite amount of money to spend, because it's your money, they don't care what it costs. Because at the end of the day, it's your money.